Hi, this is Forrest Leichtberg with the Santa Barbara Response Network. Welcome to our Wednesday Compassion Center in English. Today's topic is supporting parents and families during COVID-19 with their how to parent and respond to the times in a way that nourishes family well-being within the family system. Today's guests, first off, with Jina Carvalho, who's one of the founders of the Santa Barbara Response Network, who's hosting tonight. We also have Alana Walczak, who is the CEO of Calm, which is extraordinarily has an extraordinary presence in Santa Barbara, helping people psychologically, families, children. And their mission really is to prevent child abuse, help heal children and families, and build resilient community. They provide services in Santa Barbara, Santa Maria, and Lompoc. And Alana has spent over 20 years working with various nonprofits to help at-risk youth and families. Our host, Jina Carvalho, is one of the founders of the Santa Barbara Response Network and currently on the executive team. She's been working in the mental health nonprofit sector for over 40 years and is the communications director of the Glendon Association, as well as psychalive.org. So I'm gonna allow them both to take a moment to introduce themselves.
Well, I feel really pleased to have Alana here today, and thank you, Forrest, for being the moderator with us today. And as we got into April and it was Child Abuse Prevention Month, I really wanted to have this conversation because of the stresses and some of the anxieties that our families are experiencing today. Homeschooling, having to have their children with them all the time, very little support. I thought it would be an ideal time to have this conversation and to really let parents know firsthand that there is support, that there is help, that there are ways that they can be supported during this time. And so I'm really pleased to have this conversation today. So welcome, Alana.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here with both of you. So I appreciate the invitation and hopefully can add some important information into this dialogue. And we at Calm are here and we're in action. We've really never been busier. So the fact that this crisis is overlaying April, which is Child Abuse Prevention Month, it's very timely. So thanks so much for including me this evening.
You are welcome, and we are just as excited to be here with you as you are with us. So thanks for making time for it. So our first question here, what issues or concerns are you seeing at Calm and your staff in families and children right now during this time?
Well, I think the first thing that we had to navigate at Calm is, most of the work we do with children and with families and with parents is face-to-face. Most of the work we do is clinic-based or community setting-based. So we're in person, we're doing sessions in our therapy rooms in the offices, or we're in preschool classrooms or elementary school classrooms. And obviously, with the changing nature of the pandemic, all of those things have ended. So we very quickly, I think it took us 3 days, we pivoted all of our services to HIPAA compliant telehealth, meaning HIPAA compliant phone or video session. And we're learning that you can, I had clinicians who did not think you could provide therapeutic services to a 4-year-old if it wasn't done face-to-face. And we're learning that you can do it over a screen. And we're learning, you have to be innovative and creative and find new ways to do things. But we're building those connections with children and families and with teachers and with other community members who are still needing and wanting our services. So it's been a big pivot. And I work with superheroes. So the fact that they were able to do this so quickly and maintain continuity of care with so many existing clients, but what we've seen is an enormous influx in new clients who have been requesting services. As you mentioned, just this time, there are so many stressors. There's economic stressors, job loss or fear of job loss. There's obviously anxiety about getting sick oneself or loved ones getting sick. And then the enormous stress of shelter in place and having families, stuck at home, trying to juggle, if they're lucky, working from home, if they still have a job, while parenting, while educating their own kids. And this is a very tense time. And so for any family, I have 2 9-year-olds. And so I'm trying to manage my work life while being available to my children, while teaching my children. And it's a juggle, and I'm exhausted, and it feels behemoth. And I have resources and I have access to support systems, and many families don't. And they're navigating these times with potentially greater stressors than I have, and without as many resources. And so just to think about the toll that that's taking on some families, it's enormous. And so we're really trying to mobilize therapeutic supports to families right now.
Sure, that's absolutely.
Are-
Yes,
Are
Jina?
you able to do group? I was wondering if you were able to still do group work, like I know you do with children's and parents. Are you able to do that?
We're doing some group work, finding new ways to do that, but in many instances, we've converted groups into individual sessions for most of our clients. But it really depends on the nature of the work and the needs of that particular client. And in talking about shelter in place, you may have seen the news that domestic violence incidences are going up, and that makes sense.
Yes.
Because people are living in close quarters, and even under the best of circumstances, that's stressful. But if there's pre-existing trauma, or if there's economic hardship, or just different stresses that are facing a family, that level of violence is going up. And we also know that child abuse incidences are going up. And if you look at the reports that are going into child welfare services, those have gone down. But that makes sense too, because most of the reports come from teachers. They come from elementary school teachers and preschool teachers. And right now, children aren't in those settings. So those folks that normally can track children don't have access to them right now. So we have a lot of children who are in very dangerous situations, and their needs are invisible because no one in the community is seeing them right now. So that's really the nature of what we're dealing with, is that there's this crisis on top of the COVID crisis. There's a crisis of family violence, domestic violence, child abuse, that's happening behind closed doors, and people don't know that it's happening.
Wow.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why I'm so concerned and so glad that you're here and doing the work that you're doing and stepping up the way you and your staff, because we're also going to have domestic violence solutions on, and sexual assault is also on the rise. So all of these issues we have to be so mindful of, and possibly be good neighbors to each other, and be able to speak up if we see things. Do you feel like that's an important
absolutely part? I think that sometimes in all of this, especially because so much is uncertain and so much is unknown, we tend to feel really helpless. But I think we can take steps. I think right now, again, so this is week 6, and I mentioned, I'm trying to juggle all the things, and it's hard to know, because is this week 6 of 10 or week 6 of 12 or 18 or 36? Like, how many weeks are we doing this for? No one knows. And so it's hard to really pace your energy and your stamina to get through this new normal, whatever this is. So I can say that just reaching out to friends and family members makes a huge difference. When I get a text from another working mama, or from a family member, or from a friend who's just checking in on me, it really helps to reset my day. And it's a small thing, but I think if each of us can do that for someone else, if you know that if there are people in your life, people on your block, colleagues, friends, or family members that, have children that are doing this juggle, just checking in, reaching out with compassion, really, not with suspicion or, but just really with empathy and compassion. I think that really, truly, it can make all the difference in that family's day. And we know that, there's ups and downs in this. I know that most days I have a good day, but there are some days where I wake up and it's just not a good day. It's not a good day. And when that happens, having those check-ins, help me get through that day and make it a good one. So I think that's really critically important right now.
Yeah.
Right. And this month,
so important.
This month is Child Abuse Prevention Month. And so are there any, special activities or resources that might be available?
Yeah, I mean, we're doing things a lot differently. Normally we do a lot of public events and open houses and community gatherings, and obviously none of those things are happening, but we are trying to push out as much information into the community as we possibly can. So there's a couple things. First, I would just direct anyone to the Calm website, which is Calm for Kids. It's the number 4, calmforkids.org. And we have tons of resources and links there of strategies for parents to talk to children about what's going on right now, or different activities that families can do together, helpful tips for maintaining stress levels. But we're also doing a lot of content on Facebook. We are the mental health provider for elementary schools in Santa Barbara Unified and within Goleta Union as well. And we're trying to partner still with teachers while they're doing digital academic learning. We're partnering with the teachers to do proactive digital social emotional learning and really helping just continue to do mindfulness activities and relaxation activities with children, pre-K through 6th grade, and also creating space for those teachers, because those teachers are superheroes and have had to completely transform the way that they're interacting with their students. They miss their students so much. This is what, this is not the job they signed up for. So we've created some support groups for teachers to have a space to talk about what it's like in this setting. We've also done some trainings because teachers still are mandated reporters. So how can they be of most support to their students in this alternate format? How can they, as they're zooming in to children's living rooms or kitchens or dining rooms, how can they continue to assess risk, and how can they be of most support for that student as well as for the entire family? So our team has, it's completely different, but so we're doing a whole new portfolio of educational sessions during this month rather than the traditional community gatherings.
Right, sure.
Wow.
Now, on another note here, what tips might you have and suggestions for parents who may be feeling overwhelmed? I mean, look, parents aren't, I know when we grow up, it's like many children look up to their parents like they're always right, and you look up to them, and then you realize when you grow up that they're just human too. Mm-hmm. And I think what we're all going through is a first-time experience for all of us. Mm-hmm. So what advice do you have for parents who may be feeling like they don't know what to do, or they want to support their children, but the world just seems so confusing for us all right now? What advice do you have?
Well, I think, so Calm, we're experts in trauma, but we're also really trying to be experts in resiliency and helping people find resiliency. And so for a child navigating trauma, the most important factor to build resilience in a child is having a healthy connection with a loving adult. So not to add more stress to a parent who's trying to juggle everything, but what I try to tell myself is that my children are going to remember this time based on how I act during it. And if I can be as grounded and as calm and as collected and as loving that's what they're going to remember. They're going to remember that potentially this was boring. They're going to remember that they missed their friends in school. They're going to remember being at home a whole heck of a lot. But hopefully, if I do things right, they're going to remember more time with me. They're going to remember more games. They're going to remember more walks around in the neighborhood, and they're going to have good memories. So I think we don't have to be at our best. Like I know a lot of people are talking about, gosh, parents need to be at their best right now. No, we have to be human, and we have to give ourselves grace and acknowledge that this is really hard. Like you said, this is something we've never lived through before. But for those of us that are trying the juggle of parenting and schooling and working, trying to build in breaks. My days with my kids go much better if I can end the Zoom call 10 minutes early and go spend 10 minutes with my kiddos, play a game of Connect 4, check out what science they're working on, find out what they're reading, get them connected to an activity, give them a hug, whatever I can do, and really make those 10 minutes about our connection. And then, of course, I got to hop on the next Zoom call or go hop on a phone call or whatever the next thing is. But really trying to pace myself. The other thing is we can't get as much done as we used to. I mean, that's been a really big place of heartache for me. I'm just not able to be as productive as I used to be. And of course not. I'm juggling 3 times as much. So I think we just have to be kind to ourselves, take breaks from the news, take breaks from social media. Like there's only so much information we can take, and we have to get outside. We have to recharge, and for children especially, I think maintaining as much routine as we can. So really sticking with bedtimes, and school's out, so we could be staying up till midnight, but no, get to bed at the same time, have the same ritual, have the morning ritual. Maybe it's different than what school days looked like, but have something consistent. Try to map out the day with your kids, engage them if they're old enough of how the day is going to flow. But again, and I think for us as parents or just adults navigating this, if we have children in our life, if we're not whole, we're not going to be able to give much to our children. So it's it's the age-old thing on the airplane, put your own mask on first. So we have to make sure that we're tending to ourselves, that we're maintaining social connections with our friends and our families so that we're feeling restored and capable of navigating. And then again, we have to give ourselves permission that there's just going to be some days that are not good days, and it's okay. And you just get through that day and you reset the next day and you try again. And reach out to Calm, or reach out to a friend or family member, or reach out to your therapist, whatever support systems you have, so that you can get fueled up.
Well, it seems to me as well that if a parent is able to respond to what is arising in their internal world in a way that's healthy, I mean, they might be experiencing fear or confusion or panic or whatnot, but if they can have the awareness and emotional intelligence to respond to that with awareness, with compassion, with that witnessing kind of consciousness, where you're in the experience, but you're also able to witness it, and then you have more of a choice in how you want to proceed. That seems like that is a very healthy thing to model for your children, because they're not always going to be feeling great either, and they need to learn how to respond to what is arising within them like that. So maybe I like what you just said. It's not about being perfect as parents, but if you can anyways, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, and I think too, yes, absolutely, we should try to be our most evolved selves right now and be self-reflective and be really in touch with our emotions. But we also have to be really honest that can shift hour to hour. We can get news of a loved one or a friend who is sick, and that can just throw the whole thing over. And so Yes, I absolutely agree. And then also there's just so many competing factors that we have to be kind to ourselves and again go and kind to each other. And so those proactive check-ins, when I'm having a good day and I have the extra boost of energy, I try to text 3 people. When I'm having I just got to get through the day today, I hope 3 people check in with me, like, but we just have to see the reciprocity in it, and that we're going to need to give help and ask for help for as long as this takes. So,
Right. Yeah, Gina recently said something to me that I love, which is along the same lines as what you're saying here, Elena, which is just be kind and gentle and compassionate with yourself, and don't try to pressure yourself too much right now. It's a hard time for us all. So
Like, I really appreciate it. Oh, thank you, Forrest. But I really appreciate everything you said, Alana, because I think the thing that gets put aside a lot is the self-care and the self-nurturing for the parent or for the adult. Or for ourselves, we all put that aside. But I think that it's all got to start there. We really do have to have that attitude of kindness and gentleness toward ourselves, but also taking care of ourselves. The idea of the breaks, I love that, like of taking these little breaks throughout the day to recharge and to tune in and to, kind of get in touch with where we're at. And it's not always going to feel good, but that's where we are right now. And also the takeaway of really reaching out each day to 1 or 2 people or 3 people that you're thinking about, or parents. If we all did that, I think that would go a long way, that idea of connection.
and
So
this is perhaps
it's just
silly,
so valuable.
but something that I've been doing, and I'll just offer this, maybe this is helpful for someone else, but I do not have a very good home work setup. This is not where I normally work. Most of us, this is our experience. So my back has been killing me. So I'm literally just for 7 minutes at different, like just trying to stretch. I'm just stretching. And in those moments, also trying to just slow myself down, and use that to like, okay, how am I going to enter the next Zoom meeting, or how am I going to enter, okay, taking 7 minutes to stretch, and then I have to go make lunch for my kids. How do I want to show up to that? And it's just, and again, I have my bad days too. So then I'm doing nothing. I'm not stretching, I'm not prepping, but just trying to really break it down into those bite-sized moments is helpful.
Right.
In AA, or when you say 1 day at a time, during this time, I've been doing like 1 hour at a time. It's like the next hour.
Well, a day is, an hour is like a day.
Next hour. I mean, that's where it's at, because we just don't know. And the uncertainty of how long, again, like you said, we don't know. So that all that anxiety, if we're not breathing and we're not being mindful, it can be very, stressful and, hard on our bodies.
And I think just, something that we're seeing at Calm, to go back to your first question, Forrest, of children or adults or families who have trauma histories, who have lived through some kind of trauma, whether it's childhood trauma, things like domestic violence, or having a substance abusing parent, or abuse or neglect, or living through Thomas and debris flows, whatever, if a family or an individual has lived through trauma before, this trauma is re-triggering all of those feelings and all of those emotions. So for anyone listening who has a trauma history, this self-compassion and self-care becomes even more important, because the anxiety of this time, many people struggle with anxiety before COVID-19, but now this level of anxiety is exacerbating their traditional level of anxiety. And so just coping skills, people have to find new coping skills, and some of them just aren't going to work right now. And people have to understand that. But I think it's helpful for us as community members to again, have that empathy that there may be others in our circles who are carrying way more just because of their historical context. And so trying to remember that they might be extremely re-triggered right now.
Mm-hmm. That's such a good point. It's so valuable. It's so valuable. You know, as a child recently, I grew up very isolated. I was raised by my grandparents in a very, very remote sort of little farm community in Portugal. And I realized that I was very lonely as a child. I was very alone. I had no playmates. I had my grandparents. It was very remote. And I realized the loneliness, the lack of social connection, that I'm a very social friend. I have lots of friends. I do a lot of things socially and I love it. But now my world is small again. And I realized one day somebody said the word lonely and I started weeping. I think it was my granddaughter. And I started weeping. What is this? And I started writing in my journal. Journal has been very helpful. And I realized, oh my gosh, I'm being re-triggered by my original loneliness as a little girl, of being alone with no one to be with. So you're so right. And I didn't even put that together, that this would be extremely traumatizing. And I have resources and support, so I can imagine people who are extremely isolated.
Yeah, and then for children who may be experiencing this, or teens, and then, you know, sadly, many of them might be sheltering in place with perpetrators. So they may be physically or sexually abused or emotionally abused themselves, or they're witnessing their parent be abused by another adult in the home, and they may be carrying all of those feelings, but then they're living in a war zone and with nowhere to go with it. So that's why I'm so happy to be with you today, because I just want folks, if there are teens listening or kids listening or families listening that do need help, CALM is receiving many more requests for service, but with telehealth, we're able to serve more people, it seems, and provide perhaps shorter sessions, but more frequent. So we're able to serve kind of as a lifeline. So I just want folks to know that we're available. We've been able to, I don't exactly know what's happening, but we're able to process new inquiries quicker than we ever have before. We're assigning all of the new requests for service very quickly. And we have more than half of our staff, more than half of our clinical staff are bilingual, bicultural. So we are able to provide resources in English and in Spanish throughout the county. We have offices, like you mentioned, in Santa Barbara, Lompoc, and Santa Maria, but we also reach beyond that. And now with telehealth, we really can serve anyone, anywhere, because they don't have to come to a physical location. So there's a lot of invisibility of the need right now because it's happening behind closed doors. So I just want folks to know that we are here. We really believe truly that we're in it together. And so whatever way that CALM can provide support to families that need us, we're here.
What's your website? How can people learn more?
So glad.
Yeah, sure. The website's www.calmforkids.org, and the 4 is the number 4. So CALM, the number 4, KIDS.org. And it has all of our contact information to the different offices as well. Again, as I mentioned before, there's a tremendously long list of resources specific to the trauma of COVID and and also check out our Facebook page, because we're doing circle times for preschoolers, and we're doing groups or different activities for teens, and there's a variety in English and in Spanish. So there's a lot of content that we're trying to push out.
That's fabulous.
Great.
Thank you so much.
We're so fortunate to have CALM in our community, Alana. Since I've been here, you've been your agency has been the most valuable agency in serving families. And during this time, I can see that you're stepping up like you always have. So we're really so fortunate to have you and your staff.
Thank you so much. I mean, it's interesting. It's our 50th anniversary this year. We had planned a very different year. to celebrate our 50 years. We're being a little more quiet about it because there's, obviously a greater need, but we're so fortunate that we've had this long history, and, the issue of childhood trauma is bigger than any one of us can solve. So we're so grateful to have partnerships with basically every nonprofit, every school district, every community organization, because together we can accomplish so much more than if we try to do it alone. And so I feel so grateful for the support we receive from the community. That's how we get our work done. So.
Right. Well, thank you for all your leadership and all your work with Quam. And it's a force within Santa Barbara County. So it's really inspiring.
Thank you. Thanks.
Do you have anything
Thanks for this?
Both of you, Jina and Alana, do you have any final words as we come to our conclusion here?
No, I just really like what you said about we're in this together. There is help and support. You're not alone. Do reach out and stay safe and be very kind to yourself. And do stay in touch. SBRN is also here, sbresponsenetwork.org, and we have resources there too. And you can call us 24/7, and we have responders in English and Spanish as well. So stay in touch.
The only final thing that I would say is this just popped into my head, but our Calm's tagline is protecting the most important relationship in the world. And what we mean by that is really honoring the connection between parent and child, or caregiver and child. And I think that relationship right now, as I mentioned, it's a lifeline for a child. Having, the trajectory of a child's life forevermore is positively influenced if that child has one loving relationship with an adult. And again, children are looking to adults right now to how to interpret this, how to navigate this. And so if we can be as grounded as we can, and we can intentionally invest in those relationships, whether we are a parent ourselves, or we know that there are children in extended family or children of friends, just really making an effort to be a loving resource to children right now is going to make all the difference. That's what they're going to remember. They're going to remember how the adults were in this situation and how they felt. They're not going to remember each and every day, but they're going to remember how they felt during this time. So I think protecting that most important relationship is all of our work right now.
Sure. And we could go on a whole other conversation about this, and I know we're coming to our completion here, but it seems like it's a good time to really take a look at the value system that we hold, and reprioritizing well-being in all ways, like physical well-being, emotional well-being, family well-being, relationship well-being. And it seems like a good time. It seems like a good time to really start to readdress those areas, because we're all so busy. It's so easy to let those things fall on the wayside. So, hey, I want to thank you both so much for the opportunity to be here and ask some questions and participate. And if you feel complete here, then we can conclude.
I think we're good. Thanks so much.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you to our participants and audience for tuning in. Take care.